Hello all, welcome to our new episode of TeamLease webinar. This time we have come up with a very interesting topic, and it's a kind of a buzzword with among all the entire HR community, the new era of workforce management. And I'm sure people in HR will completely be in a position to resonate how things have changed in the last maybe 2 to 3 decades. So now, in order to have this conversation, we have two of the industry experts and from the HR field. We have Mr. Chella Pandian Pitchai from who is the global head diversity and inclusion of Biocon Biologics, and we have Mr. Gurpreet with about 15 to 16 years of experience, and he's from Wiom. He's with us. Maybe request both of them to have a detailed introduction so that we can actually understand them, and then we'll get on to the conversation. Yeah, Chella, you can.
Great. Good morning, everyone, and happy to be invited here to have an interaction with Subbu, TeamLease, and been in the industry for long. Started as a biochemist in Biocon many years back, and then moved to HR as a part of internal job rotation, then upgraded from biochemistry to management courses, then had an opportunity to set up HR function in the early years of Biocon, and then moved to different organization within India. Worked in Noida for a few years and worked in Mumbai for a few years. Then I joined Merck, which is a global pharmaceutical organization, and then was in India for some time. Then I was in a global role, and then was in Kuala Lumpur, Bangkok, Indonesia, and Singapore, and then back to India, back to Biocon. And currently I'm leading culture, values, belongingness as a function, and then diversity, equity, inclusion, and of course talent and succession planning, learning and development, and then sustainability. So those are some of the functions which reports into me. And looking forward to today's conversation.
Thank you, Chella. I think we are going to gain a lot from your experience. And not only me, I think the entire people who are going to watch will actually gain a lot. Thank you for joining us today, Chella.
Pleasure.
Yeah, Gurpreet.
Yep, thanks, Subbu. Thanks, TeamLease and Chella. Happy to be part of this conversation. So I currently lead HR for Wiom, the consumer internet company, with a larger vision. We are trying to reach out to 50 crore Indians, impacting their lives through affordable internet is what we are trying to target. I have been with HR with close to a decade of my experience. Before that, I was an engineer. So throughout my decade of experience with HR, I've been with industries, different ones across companies in India and outside India as well. So across SaaS, across MNCs, across healthcare in Tata 1MD, I've been there. One key thing common about throughout my journey has been that excites me is to build and scale organizations from 0 to 1 and 1 to 100. It's the same I'm doing here at Wiom as well. That excites me. That sums it up.
Thank you, Gurpreet. I think we have two industry experts from two different fields. One with the 3 decades of experience, and the one with the latest one of the internet, the buzzword, which is the telecom related. Great to have both of you, and I'm sure we will have a exciting conversation today. So for both of you, yeah, please call me Subbu. Be comfortable. I'm going to be the moderator for today's session, and happy to host both of you. Okay, great. Let's get on to the topic part. Yeah, the new era of workforce management. Maybe just to give a kind of a context to this, today the economy is actually growing. In the last 10 years, we have jumped from the 10th position to 5th position in terms of the economy. Recently, we have actually overtook Japan as well. We have come to that kind of a state. But the irony is the GDP. We are still hovering about 120th position. So imagine we are in the 5th largest economy, but then from the GDP perspective, we are actually at beyond 100. So first is, I think we should actually target to come towards the double-digit mark. Now, when we speak about GDP, then why it is not growing, then it talks about our economy has to have a different impact on the productivity part for people. And when it comes to productivity, then it actually naturally touches upon the people part. Now, in India, we have the population is about 145 crore, but then the challenge always happens, are we having the right talent for us to actually get the productivity up? Because it's a cycle. That's when the economy is growing and the GDP has to grow, and that is where the challenge actually happens. And as a HR, we play an important role in terms of identifying the right talent and to supply it as a raw material to our business. Now, given this phenomenon, in the last 3 decades, the way that we actually source candidates have completely changed. We have population now at even when there is a smallest advertisement, we have about 25 people or 100 people actually lining up for 2 position or a 3 position. Now, with that, are we in a position to do a kind of the same old methodology of traditional hiring, or is there a way that we have actually come up with, okay, things have changed. Okay, there are some non-traditional methods that I have actually come up with. Let me actually look into it. Maybe Chella, from your experience, you can connect the dots and you can actually help us with your insights.
Thank you. I think it's a very important question at a right time to see if there is an opportunity to innovate the way we hire talent, and not only hiring and also engaging and retaining. So the whole life cycle of an employee has to be revisited. There are three factors which is the reason why we should relook at. One is the technology disruption, right? So in the technology world, I'm sure Gurpreet will throw a lot of light into from his experience. Technology world, there is a huge access to the candidates with respect to the opportunities and with respect to the choices they can make, because it is not those years when I started, it is more referrals and you get to hear from people and then you go and apply, wait for an opportunity. Today, while people apply, they apply 5, 6 jobs, right? So it just throws up. AI just sees your CV, and if you're in certain platforms, there are multiple platforms are there. It just tells you, do you want to apply for this? Yesterday, I got from one of the portal, it says, these are all the jobs which matches your profile. You will be the #1 applicant here. You will be how can I prepare you? And then if you click, then it prepares you for what you should position yourself, how you should position yourself for this particular opportunity. It validates your resume, it prepares you, and it kinds of gives you a lot more insights. And it goes and reads, the algorithms are such that if you're interested in that company, it gives you a brief write-up on about the company. So it's become spoon feeding, right? It's all available, just that you're making a choice. So that's the first disruption. Second, the generation disruption. The value for the jobs versus value for career is shifting, right? Earlier, I'm not stereotyping any generation here, but earlier, because of the scarcity of opportunities, a job is considered as career. So many times you join, and I've seen in my own company, there are people who retired from the same organization. Not that they didn't have opportunities, but then there is a greater level of engagement, wanted to stay and build something, wanted to see through, right? And wanted to make sure that you leave a legacy. So those three words of building an organization, leaving a legacy, and I'm looking for a career, I'm building a career versus looking for an opportunity for a job, is changing. So that's the generation disruption. Third, the way we work itself is changing. It's no more. Earlier, I remember what people would look for is, what's my role, what's my job description, how does it resonate with my profile, and what's the salary, what are the benefits, and it predominantly stopped there. Right? At the most, then you might look what's the future of the organization. Today, there is a huge lookout for the culture. Some of the first questions from candidates is, do you have work from home options? Do you have work from anywhere options? Do you have certain things which the flexibility, work flexibility, and so flexi benefits people look for. I'm not going to use Mediclaim. I'm too young, and then can I use it for something else? So there are a lot of questions around culture, the way we work, and so those changes are happening at workplace. So that's the change I'm seeing, Subbu. Three dimensions I looked at, and all these three are important. And how we navigate this and make it more valuable for anyone who's coming and joining an organization. What's in for me? What is in for me has to be short-term and long-term. We can't present only the long-term. There is a need for presenting a short-term gain and then hook onto them for a long-term gain.
Yeah. No, I think thanks for sharing this. Importantly, the generation disruption. I
Correct.
really like the word. And that's actually, we are seeing in front of our eyes. There is a manager who is almost spent about 20 years in the system. And there are some people with the 2 years, 3 years. They are not able to gel along in a different mode because his expectation is, oh, you'll have to get the work done, finish it off, and then leave. But they said that, no, I'll actually complete it wherever I am. Why are you actually bothering me? Okay, great. So, very insightful, specifically from the technology part and the generation disruption. That's something very, I think that will resonate with anybody who's actually listening to this. We'll also take some views from Gurpreet as well, because now he's actually dealing with the kind of people who are actually fresh, and the industry is actually the latest. So, Gurpreet, your
Yeah.
view.
Sure. I think so. Very valid point from Chella, I would say. Just adding up to that is, I think so. What we see as a fast-growing organization, in my experience across fast-growing e-com organizations or consumer internet companies, is today's young talent don't is not envisioning their career as 20 years or 15 years or even more than that. They want faster growth, and what attracts them most is the purpose and impact. And if they are able to see that, okay, their own purpose, values, and impact matches the organization, then they are keen to join that organization. So telling proactively across through channels and mediums that, okay, this is a purpose and impact you could create by joining us, is a great way we could attract them, rather than the traditional job boards and other things where it was more about roles and what they could achieve in. So that is what we are looking at, and that's a shift I'm able to also see across. Secondly, I think so is technology, is what Chella was also rightly saying. So technology plays a big role nowadays, because as simple as what AI and other specific tools are helping both the sides, I would say, the candidates in prepping them up, making themselves okay, they are the best, so that they could present themselves up. On the other side, also great tools for, I would say, talent acquisition team to scrape very relevant, I would say, talent. So there are tools available in the market where, for example, you have got a bunch of resumes where you don't able to understand, or even thousands of resume you're not able to screen through. These are the common traits and the common things we are looking at. You just put it into that tool, and the tool helps you rank it. It's as simple as that. So it's the technology is aiding both the sides, from the candidate and the, I would say, talent acquisition team, to aid and expedite hiring, and also on the other hand give great experience. Like, we have now got tools which automatically helps you coordinate for, I would say, interview slots. You don't have to worry, okay, I'm not able to change my slot, I have to call somebody, get it done. So there are a bunch of tools available for doing that. So all across the, I would say, the hiring journey, uh, you get great experiences what technology is aiding, and it's a great shift we are looking at, and what candidates also love a lot around that. Lastly, thirdly, is I think so a great way that has come up across is specific to the kind of talent pool we are attracting. There are ways we could pull in, like for tech talent, hackathons is a great way to engage them. Even if you're not interested of joining us, we have a challenge. You come and solve for it. Then they understand, okay, this is a great thing. What company is trying to solve for? That excites me. Let's it's a We can think around joining that, and that is a great pull of getting potential talent as well. So there are three things that from a, I would say, recruitment standpoint, I could say in the new era of workforce management is happening.
No, thank you, Gurpreet. I think the purpose and impact that is actually continuously changing. And just out of curiosity, maybe a question in connecting to that. When you have more young talent in demand, is there anything that, okay, do you do something outside the box to actually get some of these people? Because we now know some of these challenges with respect to the way, what do they expect, and what is the impact that they expect us to do have. And with the growing needs of the business, you need more people to be filled as quick as possible. So anything that non-traditional methodology that you use for actually getting identifying such talents, Gurpreet?
Yep. So as I said, young talent look for folks who are able to do similar things what they are aspiring for. So we have our, I would say, people are as brand ambassadors, the managers who need folks in their team, the leaders who are aspiring to add people in the team, all go ahead and regularly share what they are doing in, day out, uh, to serve that impact, to move toward that purpose on social media channels and all, through which people get an understanding, a fair bit of an understanding. Okay, this is what I also want to do. They reach out to them, and proactively we are able to get a relevant pool on the go.
Great, Gurpreet. Now, the way that I actually asked you in terms of, because you are actually into internet side, and then the talent actually comes in and you require more population to come in. Now, maybe with from the same queue, I actually want to check with Chella, because kind of specialized domain that he is into, or maybe the organization is into. And when a need comes in, uh, we always say that, okay, yeah, for 100%, there are about 1,000 people who are applying for this. Now, the important area that actually gets tracked is, okay, whether the person has the right skill. Even it can be a fresher, but then at least the basic understanding of the respective part has to be there. So Chala, from your experience perspective, do you really find the skill gap is one of the reason for actually not being able to get the right talent for us, or you have any other views on that?
I would turn this question towards what can we do? Because talking about gaps is not going to fill the gaps or address the gaps. So, what we could do is to continue to engage closely with the universities and the academicians, or also even with government educational ministries, and see how we can come together to address the gaps. The gaps are uh, related to what is required in an organization in the first 2 to 3 years for a freshers, and then what is required as a long-term knowledge, right? So there are two parts to this. So one is immediate skill. The long-term skills will be automatically built as you get experience. So what we look for is a short-term skill or an immediate skill. I wouldn't even call it a short-term. It's an immediate skill and a deep knowledge, and then an attitude to uh, take the learning on very seriously, right? When I say learning seriously, the learning quotient are not equal, and it comes with predominantly from the attitude, the willingness to learn and put the hard efforts to become a better version of yourself. So I call it as next best version, right? If I'm doing the same job for 3 years, the same manner, then I've not found my next best version. Right? So my skill is not getting upgraded, nor my thinking is not getting upgraded, or the way I solve problem is the same. So these areas, which is important for the organization from freshers, if these are the expectations, how do we go partner with universities, either influence them to revisit their curriculum and enable them to add more the softer skill part, which is where the attitude part comes, and then give them the current and the future trend of how the organization or the industry is likely to change because of those disruptions which I spoke about. Then what happens is we are together in this. We get what we want, and we are no more talking about skill gap or the expectation gap. Rather, we are trying to come together to solve it. But if the position of industries is like, why would I do? Let the universities do, and I will evaluate, select, or reject. And universities think, I think we are good with what we are doing because this is our understanding of what expectations. Then the gap will continue.
No, I can actually share a couple of examples related to this, Chala. One, the electronics and semiconductors industry is actually new to India. For example, 30 years back or 40 years back, automobile was new to India. So
Yeah.
all the educational universities were focusing on mechanical engineering as a course, and then we were trying to groom. Then in 7 to 10 years, we became the raw material supply for such engineers. Today, that kind of a challenge is actually seen with the electronics and semiconductor industry. very recently, one of the top organization in the country has actually gone to the university and they have started creating a specific course wherein they will actually give the curriculum for 3 years. People who are passing out will be a direct raw material for the industry. Now, this is one way in terms of specific. Okay. Now, a niche industry, do you think that is actually possible, Chella? Because you don't have the curriculum directly matching the need of the business, or maybe the how the organizations look for talent is actually not directly coming out. So, is there a constant effort that takes place to actually because if it's a standalone, easily it can be actually made it as a kind of a syllabus and then do it. So, your views on that, Chella?
For example, from our company perspective, and also from the it's a very niche area of biotechnology. It's deep science
Correct.
involved. And whatever we do is saving patients' life. So it's a highly regulated market.
Hmm.
So what we do is we work with a lot of universities in group mentoring, and so there are greater opportunity for us to work with them for 9 months as a group mentoring, and
Okay.
then pick can excuse me, pick candidates from there. Then this whole internship is a great opportunity, especially when you're focusing on fresher, because your question is on the fresh talent. And period of 4 to 6 months internship is a great opportunity for us to check those three aspects: ASK, attitude, skill, and knowledge. And it clearly tells you how the curriculum is translating to what we're looking for. That's the knowledge part. The skill part is predominantly driven by the A, which is the attitude, because I firmly believe without an attitude, you can't convert knowledge to skill. Because there are a lot of people who have the knowledge but unable to translate into skill, because converting into skill means you need to have the willingness, you need to go that extra mile, you want to go and be curious, and then learn from peers, learn from senior colleagues, learn from subject matter experts, read. So all these are nothing but an attitude part. So attitude really helps you to translate knowledge to skill. So you get a good view of these interns over a period of 4 to 6 months to see who has the ability to get converted into full-time employee and continue to build a career, or who needs another opportunity within the organization as extended internships, or they go out and figure out something. It also allows the individual to see to test water. Is it my thing, or is it the thing which I want? A lot of people have changed their uh, career focus or the industry focus after trying for a few months. Some of them felt that I need to go and do my post graduation and come. Some of them felt that maybe my thing is PhD, so I want to go and go deeper science because science excites me. Some of them feel like, okay, fine, I tried a corporate for 3 months, but maybe I can afford to run something, a parental business, or I can go for startups. So it gives a greater opportunity. I think that's one solution I can think, by one, partnering with universities and doing group mentoring, guest lectures, and go on talk about what industry looks for. And second is bring them and try them and allow. It's a very inclusive approach. It's just not for the company, it's also for individuals, just to test water and see where your ASK stands.
No, no, great insights. I think the group mentoring and then identifying the talent much in advance and then getting them in, it's a brilliant way of, and specifically when we are operating in a very niche domain, specifically biotechnology, or even for that matter, I would say even the internet as well. Before I move to Gurpreet, on the same point, Chellam, today, okay, for a new workforce, we know, okay, this is a model that we can establish and we are actually trying to do it, and it's a great insight. For somebody who has spent, say, 3 years, 5 years, or 7 years. Do you find there actually an opportunity or a scope for the skill gap identification and then groom them for a level? If so, any specific areas you would like to highlight to all of us?
One is the conventional methodology of the learning solutions within the organization, right? If it is on the either technical side or even in the behavioral side. So identify the learning gaps, and many models are there, coachings to mentorings to learning opportunity. Today with technology, you can customize your learning through LMS, and where I could go and say these are all my skills, and then AI can be used to recommend, this is a job description, these are the current skills, and these are the future skills, this is my aspiration. So what gaps, whether for current role or future role, what skill gaps there, and if you're able to map that with competencies, you're able to get alerts of what skill gaps I need to address. So that's conventional thought, but with the new technology, it becomes much easier than just sitting and working a very manual process. The second way to look at is to see approach to the entire skill gaps by especially very technical areas. There are in-house run programs in partnership with universities or any of those who could. Very few players you would find, but you could put them into the modules of technical within the organization. Like a lot of people have these academies or skill academies, or you have a lab dedicated for training people who are 2 to 3 years. There's a criteria. Then you go through this modules of learning. It says on the job training, or it could be combination of both. And then you top it up with your technology driven learning solutions. So that's a number two. Third, we also have something called higher education program. Right, I've joined as a say graduate as a BTech biotechnology, so I want to do MTech, but I don't want to take a break. And then can company enable me to do that? Or I want to shift towards management, being a science graduate. So is there anything which I can do and then continue my career within the same organization in a different stream? Or just for good to add on to it, right? So just personally, I feel very good about adding more graduations or more higher educations. To me, that's a knowledge part. Maybe I want to expand my knowledge, then I'll use my attitude to convert knowledge to skill at the right time, right opportunity. So those are the three things which we practice. And also I keep recommending this to people who are looking into building, who are willing to stay and grow.
Yeah.
So people who are moving wouldn't find these are exciting options, right?
Mhm.
So the two way you can change your titles. One is stay, prove, and grow, or change, take the next best title and go. So many times I ask this question to a lot of candidates: how many promotions you got versus how many title changes you got. Title change means you've shifted the company, and promotion means you've proved.
Don't
Means
like.
you stayed and proved. No, you can't get promoted just joining the next month unless you proved over a period of consistency in performance and demonstration of potential will take you to a promotion.
Correct. In fact, on your last point, there are a lot of organizations which are now actually looking at grooming the talent for the future within the organization by placing them in different domains.
Yeah.
And I
Correct.
really like the point of the convention methodology, irrespective of the workforce management and other things, while technology and other things are taking over. In terms of the skill gap bridging part, I think the conventional method is still one of the proven methodology. Thanks for sharing this, Chella. And specifically when organizations run certain kind of a courses, when they actually elevate their degree program, for example, somebody is in a BTech and if has actually want to do a MTech, or maybe even at the frontline level, the on-the-job training courses, somebody who's in ITI has not actually completed, or maybe ITI was complete, but then he was looking for a graduation. Those 3 years, he's still hooked on to it. Great,
So
great. Thanks for sharing this, Chella.
just
Yeah.
before you go to Gurpreet, one more point. 70-20-10 is still powerful, right? On the job, doing is
Yeah.
seeing is believing, and doing is more powerful. But a simple example is driving skills. How much of our technology is in place, right? Unless we go into Teslas and where no driver car, then you don't need that skill. You can completely outsource. Ubers, you can, or any of this platforms which provides you drivers, and so you don't need that skill. It can be without that, you can still travel. But if you're serious about that skill, how much of our technology comes in? You practice it through LMS, and even you go simulate a car. Nothing like sitting in the car on the middle of the road and navigate, right? Certain skills is powerful when you learn it real time
Correct.
and in person or on the job by doing. So learning by doing is still powerful.
No, well said. I think that's exactly what I think all of us in this webinar also will be actually have actually experienced it and come to this kind of a level. Because this is something which has an important cue towards the next question that I'm actually going to ask Gurpreet, specifically in terms of whom do we actually retain and whom do we allow to be attracting? Exactly, if you actually put a point towards that, uh, okay, are we going to retain the person just because you spent with 7 years, 10 years with us? No. Which means we are actually going to retain that person just because he's possessing a certain skill which is required for the organization and organization to grow. So, Gurpreet,
Yeah.
coming to you, while Chella has given a complete download of or maybe insights of about the skill part and how do we actually bridge and how organizations can work around that. Telecom being a high attrition industry, because today, while technology side of it or the network side of it is actually not much, but in the frontline part, we are actually finding more of attrition. So how do you manage to uh, help or retain them and then control the attrition part? I think this we will actually discuss for a few minutes and then before we get on to the important favorite subject on the technology part, Gurpreet.
Sure. So, firstly, I want to just add on and clarify one thing.
Yeah.
Though our core offering is internet, but we are a core tech company. We are different from the traditional telecom companies, I would say, because our model is like that. We are an aggregator primarily of internet. So, from that sense, I think so. We are a similar to a lot of tech companies to say in our entire talent landscape to say. And when you look at from that lens primarily, the key thing that comes up is that do people have that kind of an ability to unlearn, relearn, keep evolving themselves, or not? If that's a kind of a trait people come up with and they keep evolving themselves up, is where they could keep growing as well, because the the pace at which technology is changing, the pace at which the ways of working are changing, if they don't keep pace with that, they are extent kind of, or they are not able to keep up pace with. So that from that sense, I think so. The key thing when you were saying how do we look at people who we want to retain versus uh, not retain is primarily from a perspective of two lens: performance and potential. I would say potential is very stronger component we look at, uh, because that is what will take that individual and the organization to the next level primarily. And we try to foster that through various, I would say, avenues, to first map that if the person has potential, even enable that through various interventions. How we can channelize that is where we look at that. Okay, if the person is having a lot of potential and is even able to add value, we should better have a stronger kind of model where we could channelize that and retain that. For example, we have a program, we have identified high potential folks beforehand, uh, and that is also done not primarily by the nomination by their own function, but cross functions, where they see that value is being added across the org from outside their function as well. So, from where we have identified a set of folks, we are trying to engage them as a part of extended leadership team, so they get access to all, I would say, key things, and they're able to groom themselves up, so that we can also identify them early on. So, similarly, we have similar kind of another program where we could channelize and retain a lot of such talent.
I think the word performance is an important metric for all of us for to actually have that retention part. Okay, whom do we retain? Obviously, while it actually goes on to the aspect of the skill part, or the person is actually possessing kind of a skill what is required for him to perform better, and therefore he becomes a performer, and therefore we actually tend to in. Okay, great. Now, again, one more question on to that same continuity part, Gurpreet. Uh, is there a way that attrition can be controlled, but at the same time, attrition actually is being, because today every organization we have been questioned with, okay, what is the percentage of attrition? The moment we say that, okay, we are actually hovering around, say, less than 10%, it's a best situation to be in. There are organizations where for the whole year, they will have a single digit percentage. There are organizations which has single digit percentage or even double digit percentage monthly as well. Now, with the growing or changing the workforce I think that's what the first point that we were actually talking about with people, the new generation taking over, how this is actually happening and what kind of a things can be done to control them. While one is a skill part, identifying the right talent and the skill part, anything else, and specifically in a growing industry like internet.
Yeah, sure. So again, I'll try to bring down to the key pointers what the talent is looking for. What's in it for me? If we are able to answer that rightly for them and keep uh, them addressed proactively, I think so the nutrition could be controlled. So that's a key reason I would say we have to be mapped in with reference to the kind of talent pools we have. In an organization, we'll have different kind of, I would say, folks across the functions. For example, tech team needs that, okay, am I being enabled with a lot of different learning programs so that I can keep upskilling myself? Because for them to sustain in their career, they need to keep upskilling themselves. If you can empower them with that, they are happy. There are probably less attrition than that. Similarly, across different roles, the growth also kicks up in. Do we have clearly charted growth paths for them? If they have clear vision of, okay, that how I'll be able to progress in the upcoming time if I add value to the organization. If that growth path is clear to folks across, then people are also clean and happy. So there are a couple of interventions we particularly pick in and keep addressing that rather than being that, okay, if that attrition goes up, then we'll do something around that. And as I said, this is particular to the kind of talent. Young talent looks for meaty roles and kind of a good work where they can get good learning across. Mid-level talent would look for the kind of scale and growth they can add value to. So this is based on the talent groups is where we need to have specific interventions to keep the attrition in check.
Great, Gurpreet. In fact, one of the report actually showed that when an attrition is happening, see today we all know attrition, people move for personal growth or maybe because of the manager, the work environment is not good. So we have actually seen that. But there is one interesting element that is coming, and that's where the point I just want to discuss with both of you. Maybe Gurpreet, you can actually take few more minutes and then explain on this particular point from a technology perspective. One of the remark or one of the point on this and the attrition survey that has been done is, okay, my organization is not having an application that is actually required for me to enable me to work in the better in my workplace. Because what we are actually seeing it as a trend, and why this question is recently been added, is that today all of us are getting into a consumer based application model, which means you use Amazon app or you use any kind of a e-commerce app, a banking app. For each and everything or using an app as a consumer, everything is instantaneous. Even to order something, you just actually, now the quick commerce is the
Right.
buzzword that has come in. But within the organization, I've been asked to do A, B, C, D for me to get a X work done. So this is one feedback. This is almost about a 2.6% of the people have actually rated for this. That okay, it is still not. Your views on that, Gurpreet, and how organizations have to get more into it, and how technology is actually influencing people onto this workforce.
Yeah, totally in line with what you're saying, Sabu, because uh, everybody is a consumer in itself, and day in day out, that consumer behavior also impacts employee behavior as well in organizations, and that has to be in sync. That is what organizations cannot be so away from technology, so away from AI. They have to figure out ways how they can also include that in their day-to-day kind of and enable them. So I think so. The most important thing is empowering them, empowering employees to say that, okay, we understand you also feel that technology should be there or there should be advancements in the ways of working, the tools you're using, identify on their own and let us know. And then we can figure it out how we can enable them. But proactively, onus is on you, is what we should do. Empower them that you keep figuring it out in day out your work. You don't have to sit back, okay, this is a way of work to be done, this is a tool to be used, I'll keep using that. So we need to empower them, we need to nudge them, sensitize them. You keep figuring it out, let us know, and we as an organization will help you out in the best way manner.
Okay, great. So indirectly, we are actually taking the feedback from people and then we actually try to implement with the organization level. Great, great, Gurpreet. Now, checking with Chella, on a traditional organization, which are into a non-technology product core business. and when technology is influencing, are you also getting similar kind of a feedback, or proactively as an organization, you do advise them to actually take control on the changing technological factors and get them implemented? Your suggestions, your insights, Chala.
Sure. So it's we are an organization, especially any drug development organization. If you see technology, were there in the past, and we were early adopters of technology, because you cannot simulate a drug development or understand without technology. There has been certain technology, in my opinion, was there even in the past years, and many years before every other industry started picking technology for everyday use. But this was specific use. Technology was always playing a role, right? And the difference is today with the Gen AI, can we translate that technology adoption to the ways of working? So that's the shift you would find in many of the pharma organization or a biotech organization, right? So yes, when we know the value of how technology can a predictive analysis or a futuristic thought which can be uh, referred to, or can be used for validating your thinking process. It's always good to have that another opinion. It's almost like a design thinking, right? You have a thought, you have an idea, and you normally call for a brainstorming and do it. But that's exactly Gen AI is doing, right? It does the brainstorming with the users or with the programmers, and it uses a lot of programming nuances to bring forth certain options for you. And still, you have a role to play in choosing what's the right one, right? So I strongly believe that that's the way of work, that's the way of life, that's the way of future, and our industry is very well onto it.
No, the reason for my question is because this feedback is also being actually taken in the form of a survey. Any employee, for example, the reimbursements, they expect that for a faster resolution. So there are organizations who have simplified it. Oh, okay, fine. Under this, no approvals, straight away you submit. It will go to the back office and they will process it. There are organizations, they are completely moved away from the back paper-based model or maybe conveyance claim. For example, somebody who's into sales, when they actually step out of the office, they punch in that, okay, they just take 2 seconds to say that, okay, moving for a client meeting, whatever the distance that you travel, the app captures it. And then end of the month, it calculates all the aspects and it sends an auto-calculated thing to the reporting manager. So if a simple HR tool, or maybe whatever the process that somebody was following till date has now become. Now imagine if this kind of a person is now moving A organization to a B organization, and in B organization, if this was not done, his expectation actually comes down, or maybe the expect. Now, these are the things what we are also seeing it as a kind of a technological part. Is there any other example that you can also quote some of the stuff that are changing in any form of mode, Chella? Specifically with technology coming in, things have actually completely changed and it is helping people for a satisfaction mode.
There are many, right? And for many of the people in industry, even if you take HR, for example, they're worried in terms of how my skill is going to be relevant for future, right?
Yeah.
Lots of back-end work, which you already addressed. I think your question has lots of answers in terms of what are the things, any mundane routine, and back-end, which could be, which is in simple documentation Excel sheet, including the Gen AI is going to do predictive analysis for using the data, because earlier the data will come to your table, you'll have to sit and go through, then you have to have some conversation to come to a conclusion. So evidence-based decisions or informative decisions or pattern-based decisions, right? There is a pattern you observe, then you take a decision. Reference-based decisions. So a lot of decision making is going to be easy, and it's going to be ready in hand, and hence the skills which currently people are applying onto this are getting worried. But in my opinion, one should not get worried. That's where go back to our second point, which you were asking, Subbu. how even Gurpreet was touching upon that, to see how people can have the right attitude, use a knowledge which you carried from college uh, through education, or the knowledge which you are learning as you are experiencing, and convert into a skill. So a
Yeah,
lot of new skills can be, emerging skills can be adopted if you have the right attitude. So attitude is going to play a huge role in the future, because a lot of
correct.
us are learning at the same time. There is no one can say I'm a subject matter expert, because, for example, Gen AI, use of Gen
Yeah,
AI, whether you're a Gen X or a Gen Y or a Gen Z, we're all the same phase, Gen Alpha. All of us are learning at the same time,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And no one can come and say, I know this better than you. Well, we could use some reference, some patterns, some other relevant skills, and translate to this and say, this is how it could look. But
Yeah.
for which,
correct.
again, you need an attitude, right? So, or to know what to expect from AI is also an attitude. It's not a skill.
Yeah.
To ask the right question to ChatGPT is also an attitude.
Correct.
People call it as it's a skill. I don't call it as a skill. It's an attitude. No,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're dealing with the ChatGPT as a person, and the questioning skill, which also stem out of an attitude. Not everybody can ask the good questions, and even if it's a wrong question, you're not judged by ChatGPT. It's not going to say you're asking a stupid question, right?
right,
So
right.
to leverage technology, there is an attitude important.
No, no, well,
Yep.
beautifully
Yeah.
said.
I
Also,
just want to, I think so, add on.
yeah.
I've been also in discussions with a lot of folks who have started fearing Chat GPT AI. And I think so. The attitude matters. If you see it in the right spirit, positive spirit, you can optimize your ways of working productivity to the next level. If you start thinking, I'm going to go extinct, then I think so. It's that attitude that matters a lot to keep evolving.
No,
Sure.
no, superb, superb. I think leveraging technology, yeah, we all know that, but then with the attitude is something that's very interestingly coming out. Great. So one last question to both of you. Very interesting point, just because we are talking about AI, and Chella also was highlighting that, okay, some of the HR team is actually worried, okay, what is actually, how things are actually getting changed or evolved over a period. Do you think, maybe Gurpreet, you can actually answer that. Do you think that AI can actually, or maybe the technology and AI together, will it replace HRBP? Because today, somewhere or the other, it's all getting toward that kind of a mode. The technology is actually getting influenced. The strength that we possessed as, okay, for every business unit, we used to have somebody like a HRBP. Uh, what are your views on that, Gurpreet?
I believe it will not take over the role, but the role will evolve.
Mm.
That is what I believe in. As I said, maybe it's only the way maybe the HR team or the HRBP as of now are banking upon a lot of their tacit knowledge, what they capture in day out while connecting with employees throughout the day, or a lot of data which they are not able to process that well. If Gen AI could be integrated in their internal systems of the organizations, they could be enabled better on the parts which AI is not that strong in with reference to the soft skills, I would say, like a lot of conflict resolution on other things that AI is far off from, I think so. And the role will evolve in, as I would say, from that perspective of how do you enable like a potential to foresee how the talent needs are changing of the team of the function. I don't think so. Yeah, I can take over, but could enable better is where HRBP role will evolve, and they have to relook at from that lens.
Thank you, Gurpreet. In fact, Chella, for a traditional organization, the emotional quotient angle to this is very important, because that's where the HRBP brings strength and they get connected to it. Maybe your views from your experience and how things are actually getting moved over there in this particular domain.
It's a good question, and a lot of people put this question around talent acquisition and HR ops, and then even to comp and benefit. People are saying,
Yeah.
can it not be done through technology? First time I'm sharing on the HRBP, right? The answer is HRBPs have to start looking at what value additions we can bring in our roles, so that we can coexist with technology. That's the only way. If we are going to compete or or be in the denial process, technology can give all that some of the HRBPs are doing today, right? If you're so it's a maturity model, right? What is your
Yeah.
HRBP's maturity level of your partnership with business leaders? If you're giving data, then the role is not going to be relevant future. If
Yeah.
you're going to be only showing attrition data and giving information, right? Hey, this person is resigning today. This person looks like resigning, and this person is not happy. So these kind of information is what you're giving to business leaders. The predictive analysis, mood, there is a mood meters and happy quotient measuring thing. All of this will predict it and give it to the business leader. All that business leader has to go to the dashboard and see how many resignation, what's happening, what's my attrition, what's my diversity, what's happening, who's the tenure completed, whom should I click of a button, you can send a personalized message. And all of this can be done through technology. Then if I'm HRBP, my mind will start thinking, how do I coexist? How do I bring value? Saying that, yes, here are things which you can go and click of a button you can get, but here are things I will give you which you may not be able to get it. For example, coaching. Robots are coming into coaching, I agree. Coaching will be done much better by a robot than a human being, because it will remember the patterns, it will remember the previous conversation. Unlike if you go unprepared for a coaching, you will like, what did we talk last time? Those questions will not come, right? It will clearly articulate everything, summarize beautifully, impactfully. But then that emotional part, that being there for you, look at eye to eye, and patting on the shoulder and holding the hand and say, hey, don't worry, you'll go through this phase. We are together in this. Those things, right? And then setting leaders for success in a meaningful conversation. So from a conversation in HRBPs, if they shift to a meaningful conversation and a valuable conversation which is leading to business outcome, then HRBP's role will continue to be there. Technology will coexist with HRBPs, or technology will enable HRBP. So it's time for all of us, not only HRBPs, any role we do in any form, to see what is that I, instead of fighting against technology, how do I use, without technology, I'm doing so much. With technology, so much of my work is released. So now I have 60% of my time is freed up. What am I going to do with that? First question. Second, how do I make it valuable so that the people with whom I have conversation feel that this 60% of additional productivity efficiency which this person is bringing is valuable for me, so that if it is going to take say 100 days to get some X revenue, can these conversation help me to reduce it by 5 days, 10 days? So that kind of business partnering will be important.
Superb. I think you articulated in a great manner, coexisting. Because most of the time, if you actually look at it over the last 2 to 3 decades, the queries that are coming to HRBP on a transactional mode are all stopped. This is like, okay, how we stopped actually going to a bank. Everything is actually, we know how to operate, what to do, how to transfer money, everything. Unless and there's a serious issue, we don't go over there. So now, therefore, if all the transactions are actually getting stopped, maybe I need to know about my payslip structure, basics of, okay, my insurance cards, etc. Anything that we reach out to HRBP, now everything's available in a tech platform. I think the coexistence of technology using or enabling the technology for HRBP to actually have effective conversation and to avoid or forecasting what could be the problem statement so that I actually avoid. I think it's a great point, Chella. So, I think it's a very interesting perspective of, okay, how we can use technology and ensure that, okay, the right support can be given to the workforce. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Gurpreet. Thank you, Chella, for joining us. Yeah, thanks for sharing all the insights. I think we touched upon the critical factors of all what were related to workforce management, whether it is actually talent identification or whether it is skill gap or whether it is retention and attrition or it is related to the technology part. Your insights are more valuable to all of us, and people who are actually watching this will definitely have some kind of a takeaway. Thank you so much for joining.